Alright, so guys, so I'm doing Kashimo versus Sukuna. Since I went over Akari versus Urame, I feel like it's fair to go over both of Kashimo's fights as well. Which doing already did his first one, so now we're doing this one. I'm gonna be looking at this fight from mostly a power scaling perspective. I'm not really gonna be analyzing how much like the narrative or anything like that. I don't really people have already talked about that. I mainly want to go over some misconceptions about Kashimo versus Sukuna, misconceptions about Kashimo in general, and I'm going to focus on answering these kind of questions I kind of came up with, mostly just from seeing discourse on like specifically TikTok and all that kind of stuff. So, first question is how much of a boost is NBA? Does he scale to Sukuna in anything? So with NBA, does he match up to Sukuna in any kind of stat? NBA Kashimo rematch with Shinjuku Akari. Lightspeed Kashimo. This is gonna be. I mean, is NBA a Wincon or a draw? So probably some things you should know about. I guess my videos first of all, and especially about Kashimo, is that specifically about Kashimo and Hikari's first fight, their only fight together. It's in my personal opinion that Hikari won that fight. And if you disagree, I have a whole other video you can watch to see all of my points, and you can politely disagree in the comments, giving your argument. But I generally have like Culling Game Sakari over Kashimo, or at least quote unquote base Kashimo, or just regular Kashimo. And then I have generally speaking, I viewed it over Kashimo, but I feel like that can kind of sway a little bit just because of the conditions may affect that fight a little bit. Because Kashimo really does, he does have an advantage just from the people not knowing his abilities. And I feel like that's what his main advantage is. I feel like if he goes into a fight where he knows all of his opponent's abilities and the opponent knows all of his abilities, I think it's significantly worse for Kashimo, even if he has that knowledge. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and get into it really quick. So first things first, obviously this is the first version of Sukuna that Kashimo goes up against, and he's mostly in base, I think, or I think he transforms like halfway against his interactions with Maguna. But to give a, let's go down to this one right here. This is probably like, I think this is for sure this might be like one finger Sukuna level. Like realistically, like first episode, he might be around that power level as he is right now. Obviously, we don't know for sure, but he just face tanked. Keep in mind, he face tanked the strongest Hollow Purple we've ever seen. And for reference, this was Hanami after after getting hit with like a regular Hollow Purple from Gojo. This is like top 2 or maybe even top 1 most durable disaster curse, torn to shreds, and Sukuna face tanked that shit. Only lost an arm and like a couple of eyes. So, and then at this point, he already tanked that damage, right? The Hollow Purple. He has no RCT and then no domain. So he's literally right now just going on fumes. For being realistic, he's what's the word? He's fucking it's not even about his like curse energy levels. First of all, his whole his just general body condition is just terrible right now. And then it's a lot of because like, you know, with Sukuna and Gojo, they don't run out of curse energy. Realistically, that's just not going to happen. You probably have to fight them for like a whole day and a half, maybe even a week before they run out of curse energy, right? But it's more about the internal damage to Sukuna. Like if he's like a computer, for example, or like he's like a phone or like some type of device with a battery, his battery is fine, but his other internal components are just fucked. His processor is fucked. Everything else is fucked. He has enough energy, but everything else is fucked. He cannot run his programs, which would be like his curse technique, domain, all that kind of stuff, RCT. So first things first, Sukuna obviously hits Kashimo with the lightning and shit. Doesn't do anything because of Kashimo's curse energy trait or whatever. So they have a little back and forth. First things first, this is their first interaction, like first hand to hand. They make contact with each other. Kashimo runs up. At this point, he's still in base. Attacks Sukuna. Sukuna instantly parries that shit. Not even really difficult thing. Now, next thing here is Kashimo releases his curse technique. Sukuna's caught a little bit off guard. Kashimo's able to get a little bit of a tag in. And then he shoots off a kind of blast here. I really honestly not really sure what happened here. I don't know if Sukuna just dodged out the way or whatever. But let's take a look real quick. So here he's just shooting some type of. I think this might be a. Actually, I'm not even sure. I might have to check a little bit later on. But so far, they're kind of just filling each other out. Kashimo shoots off that little blast, showing off some of his new abilities from his curse technique. And let's just go over that for quick for right now anyway. So Mythical Beast Amber reconstructs flesh in order to manifest phenomena that Kashimo converts from cursed energy. So essentially what Kashimo's doing is his cursed energy, from my understanding, I may be wrong, all right? I just want to put that out there. Jujutsu Kaisen is confusing. So his curse technique basically takes the atoms that like is already his flesh and body and then uses his curse energy to convert that flesh into like plasma or what other type of shit he can make, right? So next thing's here. Sukuna's still in his weakened state. Kashimo already powered up. And now, yeah, he's basically just taking a beating. And I want to put into perspective, I feel like people don't understand how weak this version of Sukuna is. Like realistically, if like Yuta or Hikari pulls up and let's just say like in this moment, instead of, Hikari goes into domain, they roll around, Sukuna's not really threatened too much, but Hikari gets a jackpot. At this point, Hikari's going to start be doing the same shit. And if Yuta goes full power as well, he's going to be doing the same thing as Sukuna. Any one of the heavy hitters at this point would press this version of Maguna. This isn't super impressive or anything from Kashimo. This Maguna is absolutely, like I said, running on fumes. More or less just in his like capability of doing something, nothing like his actual like curse energy reserves or anything like that. All right. So Kashimo's obviously still landing some attacks on Maguna or whatever. But yeah, so let's go into some more of explain those things, more explanations of his abilities. So improved agility in my bad, hold on. Improved agility due to an increase of activity in electrical signals in the brain. Sound waves are optimized and attuned to the natural frequencies of substances. Electromagnetic waves that vaporize eradicated objects. Kashimo's body manifests these phenomena, and he has passed beyond the human realm. So obviously they're just saying he surpassed his human limits. I think that makes the most sense, the most logical interpretation in my opinion. He surpasses human limits. And then obviously he's getting a huge boost in his like speed and dexterity and his reactive his like reaction speed and whatnot. Now I think the sound wave, I think this is what he shot off earlier. I'm not exactly sure. I think this is what that is, but I'm not really sure. So let's see. Now with here, I think he's just mostly pressing Maguna. Oh yeah, and then also here, but after completion of his curse technique, Kashimo's flesh collapses. And one thing I want to point out before going any further, unfortunately, when it comes to this curse technique, in my opinion, it's really difficult to concretely scale without just pulling out random headcanon like I find a lot of people doing on TikTok, for example. Because we get a lot of these explanations, but we don't see it interact with anything to the point that we can give it like a quantifiable kind of in our head, scale it to where like relatively what it makes sense to what it can do. Like imagine you see, they're talking about like Yuta's love beam, for example, and then we just see like, boom, it clashes with Ryu's. We don't have any feats for Ryu's either. So then when it comes to like two characters fighting, you're talking about Yuta's love beam, it's like you can't properly give a you can't give a proper like quantifiable explanation of how like potent the love beam is. I'm not sure if my example makes sense, but let me know if you're following me. Anyway, so next thing, I think this is the second hit he's landed on Sukuna at this point, I believe. So far, well, he might be able to transfer a charge through, let's see, this. I kind of doubt it though, but here definitely lands a charge. He's building up that charge. Lands again. Building up the charge again, I'm assuming. And when he's in NBA, it only takes 2 strikes for him to build up a charge to get that lightning, which then forces Sukuna to transform. Obviously, I don't think pressing this weakened form of Maguna is super impressive. And obviously, I don't think Sukuna was really taking Kashimo that seriously to begin with until he saw like a little bit from him. But like I said, if this was any heavy hitter that pulled up, he's gonna transform eventually. It just depends on whichever like point or state in the fight, because I don't think he has enough output right now to really kill any of them in this fucking Maguna form, who just survived a unlimited hollow purple, which is like top 3 attack we saw in the series so far. So anyway, now let's get this up. None of this that got shot off here is light speed. None of this. Absolutely none of this. And then on top of that as well, so with the sound waves, the optimized and attuned to the natural frequencies, it's like we have a lot of these things, but like I was saying, we don't actually see them interact with, like, we don't get an explanation of like, oh, this is an effect it's having. We just see, okay, Kashimo's moving really fast. He's gotten a little bit faster. He's able to shoot off blasts, and that's really it that we see. At least up until I think pretty much that's actually is the same thing. So next thing we're getting into, sorry, I'm a little all over the place. Next thing we're getting into, Kashimo just goes straight up into just start 2-hand twisting Sukuna shit. You know, Gok 3000 his shit, you know, because he's a fucking Sukuna glazer. Let's see. Yo, you know, it'd be fucked up. I just realized something. I would actually be so mad, because if anybody's reading JJK Modulo, right, I'm going to go on a little side tangent. Deborah is my favorite character from the spinoff so far. I swear to God, if it somehow gets confirmed that Kashimo Kashimo got reincarnated into Deborah, because look at this shit. Hold on. I'm going to prove this really quick. Hold on. He looks exactly like him. Holy shit, that's crazy. Let me see. Dude. Because I'm not surprised if Gege would do this on purpose. Like, hold on. Like, dude, what? Even with the, like, vertical third eye, because the Diskunte have vertical third eyes. And then the 2 horns. Like, fucking, okay. Also, I want to give a little context. I'm not a natural born Kashimo hater. I really like Kashimo. He was like probably my top 2 favorite character in JJK when I was first reading it. It's mostly just the fucking high schooler, middle schooler Kashimo fans on TikTok that just pissed me off completely. And like, I should have let it got me that pissed off, but Jesus Christ. They glazed this nigga to top 2, somehow acting like he surpasses Gojo just from this shit right here. As if Akari, Yuta, or Maki can't replicate this shit right here. Yuji at this point could probably beat the fuck out of this Sukuna. Like, come on, man. Anyway. I actually really, really like Kashimo. I just can't stand his like lasers that overhype the fuck out of him and act like he didn't lose to Akari. That's just that pisses me off the most. Nigga was laid out on the ground saying, go on and kill me. And they're like, nah, he didn't lose, though. Get out of here. All right, anyway. So, next on. At this point in the fight, Sukuna's taking it more seriously. He transformed already. So, now he just starts putting belt to ass. At this point, actually, I'm going to check and see. I haven't read this fight in a long-ass time. I'm going to see if Kashimo lands any hits on this nigga at all. Let's see. Okay, so, at this point, they're going hand-to-hand. I don't see any impact things on Sukuna at all. At the very most, they might just be like clashing hands together, like they're blocking each other's strikes and stuff. So Sukuna punches the shit out of Kashimo at this point. What angle is this from? Is he turned around? Okay, yeah, okay, I see. So he's right. Then he Dragon Ball. Okay, also this is not Lightspeed, gang. I don't know who needs to tell you this. Who's gonna disappoint you? JJK is a very realistic, when it comes to speed-wise at the very least, it is a super realistic series in comparison to most shonen, all right? No one is even approaching hypersonic in this shit, real talk. This is like a Mach 3 attack. Anyway, that Sukuna can also easily react to. So, at the point Sukuna transforms, this attack does not land. And I think that's a very interesting thing that happens sometimes, is Sukuna will like challenge his opponents to strike him, and they just can't land a hit. So he's almost like Gojo in a way, but he's more just like, he's just like, I'm not going to allow you to touch me. Like, I'm so far above you, you can't touch me, basically. Not even like Gojo's Infinity. That's a whole other thing. But all right, now he does that fucking world cutting dismantle, and also here he cuts off Kashimo's hand, and in the next frame, let me see, it like starts to kind of recover. I guess I don't know how to explain it. Regenerates in a way. Somebody tried to like fucking finesse their way into saying Kashimo's RCT. I'm gonna TikTok about this too. No RCT here. It's just his curse technique replenishing his hand by like already destroying his flesh. It doesn't like it's not RCT. All right, so here they start throwing more hands, and Kashimo still has not landed shit. I don't think. Let's see. And at this point, Sukuna body slams him, and then throws him, and then waffles him. So this has happened in, I believe, this has happened in both of Kashimo's fights, right? This is basically the cycle of a Kashimo fight, right? Starts off a little competitive, he's stunning on them, he's showing off his abilities and whatnot. Now, to give context, this is his fights against Sukuna and Hikari, all right? Versus like Panda or whatever. Nah. All right. Nah. Also, I want to say, to think about this fight, in what Panda was to Kashimo is what Kashimo is to Sukuna. That's like the best way I can explain this possible. Like at full power, the heavy hitters are like what Panda is to them. And that may be a little bit extreme. I may be like Nanami maybe. That's like Nanami to the heavy hitters, but like you have to think about that's the gap in power between somebody like Sukuna and Gojo to Kashimo, who was still heavy hitter level. Like he does not get an Honored One buff from Mythical Beast Amber. All right, but anyway, so far let's look at like all NBA feats. All right, he gets slightly faster in NBA to where he's more effectively blitzing Sukuna when he's kind of, I wouldn't say quote unquote off guard, but he's not really expecting what's about to happen, which is like Kashimo getting this huge boost. So shoots off a blast, doesn't really do anything to Sukuna. He even punches him in NBA, and oh shit, hold on. He punches him in, hold on, let me see. Punches him in NBA, does the lightning thing off, and then Sukuna transforms. Now, I don't know if this punch specifically played a role into him transforming. I'm pretty sure it's just because of the lightning, but a straight punch from NBA Kashimo, in my opinion, I don't think it's really like, I don't know, it's not really like a thing for me where I'm seeing it and thinking like, oh yeah, he's taking people out with this. I don't know. So let's see. Again, the lightning, in my opinion, is like still the most effective thing from his kit. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I think the other heavy hitters are dodging a lot of this shit unless he gets the lightning off on him. But I think a lot of this extra shit he's doing, I think they're dodging it. And I think if they're all going at full power, at full strength, I don't think any one of them is blitzing each other. But it's not just gonna be like a wash for Kashimo. Like, it's not. So yeah. So this is a cycle of a Kashimo fight. Starts off somewhat strong, but it's mostly in the aspect of him just showing off his abilities. Then the opponent starts taking him seriously, and especially in the hand-to-hand department, he gets absolutely dominated. Absolutely dominated. He's getting fucking manhandled. Getting absolutely dominated here. And sure, he was able to react to Sukuna already being behind his back, sort of quote-unquote react, but then he just gets manhandled again. He can't even outspeed Sukuna's, like, sneak attack. It's not even really sneak attack. He just blitzed him. That's really all this is right here. Kashimo cannot properly react to Sukuna, even though he can like sort of react. He can't react fast enough to where it makes a difference, is the point. So let's go back to some of my questions to kind of round this out, right? Now, how much of a boost is NBA? I would say NBA is like the equivalent of it's like a jackpot for Kashimo, in my opinion. I think it gives the same level of like boost in stats because when Hikari's in jackpot, I'm trying to find the exact shot. Whenever Hikari's in jackpot and he punches Kashimo, Kashimo goes flying, similar to how Sukuna went flying when NBA Kashimo punches him. Now, I think speed wise is probably where it's mostly effective. I think it makes him more agile, and I think it just makes him more agile to where it's going to be harder to like really stay with him in a fight. I think he's just more of the one that's going to be spamming shit and whatever. But um, obviously it boosts all of his stats. How much is it actually boosting? We can't say for sure. But I would probably equate it to like a jackpot boost for Hikari, like how strong he gets in jackpot. I'll probably equate that to Kashimo when it comes to NBA. Does he scale to Sukuna anything? The simple answer is no. He does not scale to Sukuna in anything at all. He gets blitzed whenever Sukuna takes him seriously. And if it's not fucking like Maguna on half H, on like a quarter HP with no hand and then like a missing eye, if it's not that version of Sukuna, Kashimo is just getting bodied. NBA Kashimo rematch with Shinjuku Hikari. I think this is the one where most people underestimate Hikari because they don't realize how strong he got during the time skip, because obviously we didn't get enough time to see him showcase anything. But this version, Shinjuku Hikari, should have simple domain, and I made a video on this already if you want to see more about why that is. But essentially he asked about simple domain and specifically new shadow style when they were talking about training for Sukuna. So, and then Mei explains that, yeah, Charlie already took care of the like binding vow for people to learn new shadow style. So realistically, all the heavy hitters besides like Maki should have simple domain and all that kind of shit. So, and Shinjuku Hikari is strong enough to where he's still keeping up with Yuta. So Yuta doesn't surpass him during the time skip. He maybe has more abilities, and there is only a few there's like a few temporary abilities Yuta gets for Shinjuku, specifically fighting Sukuna, to where he's borrowing like the body parts from Charles and Hannah, and I would expect them to get their shit back after it's over. So overall, I think Gojo was judging Yuta under the like pretense of, okay, Yuta after Shinjuku, when he gives the abilities back, how strong will he be then? So I think he's still in the same league as Hikari. Obviously, they have more advantages in other things. Hikari is obviously more tankier, more HPs, just pure endurance. Yuta's much more of hacks, and he fights at a high peak, but only for a short amount of time, while Hikari can basically just go on for however. So we're talking about them two specifically. I think this is a very close match. It's really hard for me to say. I think it's like honestly really similar to their first fight. And I think it just really comes down to I'm not even sure, because if he has simple domain, a lot of those like long ranging attacks can be kind of mitigate, like damage can be reduced. So shoot, let's see. I'd really maybe go like just 5.5 for Kashimo, to be honest. I don't think it's a huge like stomp though, in my opinion. He doesn't show anything in this fight for me to be like, oh yeah, no, he's stomping Hikari. Like I don't see that at all, especially with how Hikari dominated in the first fight, especially when it came to hand. But I mean, let's see. Also, there's a problem with circular scaling here. I want you to understand. So let's talk about characters that don't have a lot of like fights under their belt. Nobody else fights this version of Sukuna, so we can't scale this version of Sukuna to anything. All we know is that he's severely weakened from his normal state. Weakened enough to where he's in league with like Kashimo and Yuta and Hikari and on Maki and even a little bit of Yuji, right? And then I just fucking mixed these up. Actually, I didn't. And then I mean, it goes to Heian forms Sukuna, and he just completely washes him. So like, you have to think Sukuna or Gojo at full HP is like one-shotting this man if they really want to. But yeah, no, he doesn't scale to Sukuna in anything. Like, none of his abilities are effective. Anything he has, Sukuna can fucking just like negate. He negates the fucking blast with the fucking dismantle. He just waffles Kashimo at the point where he's done with him. Like at the moment Kashimo doesn't become interesting anymore and he's figured him out, he just waffles him. So it's like, yeah, no, Kashimo really, he doesn't scale to Sukuna in anything. All right, Lightspeed Kashimo, no. Is NBA a win, con, or a draw? Now, this one's a little contentious, and I even go back on this a little bit myself, even though I generally consider it a draw if he has to use it. I just think of it within the context of the story, all right? Within the context of the story, Kashimo, on like an average regular day, he went through his whole life living, who knows, maybe like 80 years, never once decided to use his curse technique because he was strong enough to defeat all his opponents without it. And within the context of the story, it's very apparent he only wants to use it for Sukuna. So if he were to use it before Sukuna, I see that him as like basically just like copping out. So it's like if you use it during the Hikari fight, his whole fucking character basically gets diminished to nothing. He's a pointless character at that point. He lived his whole life, never used his curse technique, came back to life and wants to save it, use it for Sukuna, use it in a different fight. He's a waste of a character at that point. So, and then let's think about just like ranking characters and their strength. A character, even if they have a super strong one-time use curse technique, the fact it's one-time use, in my opinion, puts them lower on the scale because it's like, think about a legacy. If Goku could only use Super Saiyan one time, so like he reaches his peak, let's say he beats Frieza, he can never go Super Saiyan again. He gets killed later on. It's like, and that's just like, that's assuming he lives afterwards. He doesn't even live after this. He's like, it's a one-time use curse technique and he dies afterwards. He doesn't even get to live afterwards. If he wins using it, that's the wackest shit. He can't even live with his win. So, personally for me, I just can't respect it because I see it as he knows what's the end result of his curse technique. Otherwise, there's no reason why he wouldn't have used it before. He knows that his curse technique will kill him. If he gets pushed to the point where he can't defeat his opponent with just his fucking sure hit lightning, which is like a top 5 most potent ability in the series, like that's just putting a hole through anybody. If he can't win with that, he has to settle with this. In my opinion, he's settling for a draw because at the very least, he knows he's gonna lose. But with this ability, he could potentially take and kill his opponent with him because either way, he's gonna die. But at the very least, with this ability, he can take his opponent with him. That's the way I see NBA when it comes to him using it in fights. I think it's a little different if you want to just do like a hypothetical match where like you just put two characters in a void and for whatever reason you just put them up against each other and they just fight and whatever. But like within the context of the story, you could say maybe Kashimo's top 3 in a vacuum. All right, like no context of him having to live afterwards, but within the context of the story, he can never be top 3 with a one-time use curse technique. Sukuna and Gojo have a legacy of just killing and fighting strong people. If Kashimo gets pushed to his absolute limit with the strongest person he's ever fought and has to use his curse technique, or he dies regardless, it's like it's a lose-lose. It's a whack situation for Kashimo to be in. But anyway, that's why I don't really respect NBA that much in my opinion. Now, one last thing I want to talk about is with like Kenjaku, for example, right? Now, he sort of suffers from the same thing as these guys. He sort of has circular scaling as well, a little bit. We know he's stronger than like both Yuki and Shoso together, and that's also with the help of Tengen as well. So when it comes to like Kenjaku, who is my typical number 3 pick for like top 3 in the verse, right? I just have to see it as Kenjaku domain dips Kashimo. He already knows everything else about him, for one. And then secondly, he knows he doesn't have a domain. He knows he has Hollow Wicker Basket. Even if Kashimo goes into NBA, who do you think's going to be faster? Kenjaku with like some Curse Spirit diversion straight to domain expansion and then just fucking domain dips Kashimo? Sure, he can use Hollow Wicker Basket for a second, but like it's going to get stripped away before you can get to Kenjaku. He's just going to up the output of his barrier. Like, there's really no way for Kashimo to beat Kenjaku. I think if you want to put Kashimo against like Yuta, for example, it's a little more contentious. I still have Yuta. I don't even really put Kashimo. He's barely in my top 10. I'm gonna be honest. I think Arambe's stronger than him. I think there's just a lot of characters out there who can give him a good run for his money. I personally have Toji over Kashimo, but yeah, like it's just the narrative that this guy's supposed to be top 3 in a vacuum. Maybe it makes sense. In the context of the story, it has zero logical merit to it at all. A guy with a one-time use curse technique, and it barely puts him above the competition, and he doesn't really do anything with it. Kashimo is like literally a featless, stateless bum, stateless bum. Like he doesn't really get anything. He he is, yeah, he has like one of the worst performances against Sukuna, but it's like it's a Sukuna taking it more seriously, but I don't know. So yeah, that's my analyzation of this fight. Overall, the end result is that NBA is a really strong ability, but it's just sort of whack, and he doesn't have any feats going against Sukuna specifically that really puts him against the competition. I can easily see any of the heavy hitters performing the same in this fight and getting the same result, getting fucking waffled if Sukuna takes him seriously. He's not like Kashimo doesn't do anything in this fight to put him above like the rest of the heavy hitters. When Yuta pulled up and showed off his domain, that was some real shit that put him above a lot of people. For me, when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, Yuta is different. Like I kind of have to put him above Hikari now. So like for sure, I was already kind of like knew like, generally speaking, Yuta's over Hikari, but like, whatever. But yeah, like he doesn't do anything in this form to put him above the rest, in my opinion. And especially talking about Hikari, I think Hikari has a good chance of beating him because he doesn't show anything to where the stats are going to be that different. He doesn't do anything. Like that's the whole point. But that's really it. I don't think I have anything else to talk about this fight really, but see you guys later. Appreciate you watching. It's been a cool little series, like just going over Jujutsu Kaisen. I really love this series, but anyway, I'll see you guys.